Joe Biden is pushing to have South Carolina be the first primary state in the Democratic primary, presidential primary. So as you guys know, Iowa is always the first, then New Hampshire's the second, Nevada the third, if I'm not mistaken. And it's always seemed a little strange to me that Iowa was the first, just because I feel like there's so many that are a little bit more representative to kind of give the Democratic Party a sense of where their base is at. And Iowa, while we want to hear their voice too, 100%, isn't necessarily as representative of the Democratic Party as a whole. And that's kind of the issue that's being raised by people like Biden and in the Democratic Party. It's also fair to say the only reason why Biden and the establishment is doing this is because right now, states like South Carolina do go more for Biden-like candidates, kind of the more moderate brand of Democratic politics. But still, I like the idea because South Carolina seems like, much better state to start off the primary process. And the reason why this is so important is because people are just trying to decide who they're going to pick for days leading up to these primaries. Who does really well in races before their state influences their vote a lot. And so if you come out swinging as the person who crushed it in Iowa, a lot of people will think, okay, maybe this is the person that I should go for. They're the most likely to be able to win the general. And so it holds a lot of weight. And so changing it would mean a lot and would probably change the types of candidates that do well in the whole primary. But again, Biden likes this idea, especially if he's running for president in 2024, because last time he did really good in South Carolina. Specifically, what's being highlighted is the black vote is obviously a lot more black people percentage-wise in South Carolina compared to Iowa, and they came out in huge numbers for Biden, and so that could be playing a role. But I like it. Again, I like this idea. I think it would be a better way to kick off the primary season. But here's what's being reported. President Biden has asked leaders of the Democratic National Committee to make South Carolina the nation's first primary state, followed by New Hampshire and Nevada a week later, and hold subsequent weekly primaries in Georgia and Michigan, according to Democrats briefed on the plans. The tectonic decision to remake his party's presidential nominating calendar for 2024 came as a shock to party officials and state leaders who had been lobbying hard in recent weeks to gain a place in the early calendar, which historically attracts millions of dollars in candidate spending and attention. While many in the party had long anticipated changes, the specific order Biden proposed had generated little, if any, chatter in Democratic circles. Much of the talk among Democrats had not focused much on either South Carolina going first or Georgia joining the early mix. So it's kind of getting a few of these states that, again, have a more diverse demographic earlier on in the process, so that the perception of those watching TV seeing results come in from the earlier states doesn't get skewed towards just what one part of the Democratic Party wants. Instead, it's more representative. That's the idea. Again, I think this is just different interests at play. Biden probably thinks it would help him in 2024. But if he authentically is wanting to do this because it'll give a voice to people in the Democratic Party who a lot of times don't have enough of a voice, then awesome. And even if he's not, I still think it should happen. Here's a clip from MSNBC of this being reported.
Is proposing major changes to the Democrats' 2024 presidential nominating schedule, including doing away with the Iowa caucuses altogether. Sources confirmed to NBC News that President Biden has asked Democratic National Committee leaders to shake up the calendar to enhance the influence of non-white voters. In its current format, the Iowa caucuses kick things off, followed by contests in New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina. But the new proposal calls for South Carolina to start the process, followed by New Hampshire and Nevada on the same day, then Georgia, then Michigan. Iowa would see its caucuses replaced with a traditional primary.
So, Jim, I remember.
The White House is proposing major changes to the.
And you could see there that Jim Clyburn was on with them, and he's from South Carolina, and it kind of highlights the reason why this is so important. And we've seen people from Iowa start coming out and being angry that this is being discussed, because if you're a representative from one of those states, it gives more of a voice to your state if your state matters a lot in the primary process. So if you care about your voters, you want them to get as large of a voice as possible, but also you want yourself to be more in the mix. And if you're a representative from a state that matters a lot, the presidential candidates are going to want to make nice with you, right? Get your endorsement, because in theory, your voters will go along with that. And it matters a lot more that you're from that state, that you're a representative there. And so that fight is going on right now that this proposal has been discussed. But again, I like the idea of mixing it up, and we'll see if it ends up happening. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before any of the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get access to an extra full show every Saturday that only members can see, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley, and there is a link in the description.